When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty.
So afraid of you.
As this 1952 CIA memo says, the aim is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. A dollar buys a nickel's worth.
Left a legacy of the darker side of American intelligence work. George White worked with the Truth Drug Committee here at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in the nation's capital. They experimented with mescaline, scopolamine on unwitting victims.
Race-specific bioweapons.
Of the life we knew.
That has put us in the mess that we find ourselves.
We fall.
We know the air is unfit to breathe. Our food is unfit to eat.
Be not deceived.
The thought police.
Evil communication. Corrupt.
I've been fighting the voices in my head, in my head. I've been fighting the voices in my head. I'm in danger.
Sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
This is the story of a 30-year search by U.S. intelligence agencies to perfect mind control.
So afraid of you.
Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities. Eastern Iowa communities.
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about the trouble and trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Deceiving and being deceived.
A Soviet military publication claims the virus that causes AIDS leaked from a U.S. Army laboratory conducting experiments in biological warfare.
Of the life we knew. We live. We love. We fall.
And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, for the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places.
So afraid of you.
Deceiving and being deceived.
I've been fighting the voices in my head, in my head.
Deceiving the masses.
I've been fighting the voices in my head.
I'm in danger.
Mandatory vaccinations. The eyes of darkness. FEMA camps.
Problem, reaction, solution. The Hegelian dialectic.
Son of the dragon.
The power
powerful message now from three-time NBA champion Dwayne Wade. He has a new documentary coming out about his life on and off the court. It's called D-Wade, Life Unexpected. It offers a rare glimpse into his private life and the way he and his family, how they are supporting their daughter Zaya, who recently came out as transgender.
Tonight, Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union want you to know more of Zaya's story.
The Heat legend and his wife sharing more of their 12-year-old's deeply personal journey today. They hope it inspires other families to listen, to respect, and to love.
Dwayne Wade is one proud dad. The former NBA star dropped by Ellen on Tuesday and opened up about supporting his 12-year-old Zaya, who identifies as part of the LGBTQ+ community.
Now to that powerful message from basketball legend Dwayne Wade, opening up about the moment his 12-year-old came out to him and wife Gabrielle Union as transgender. TJ Holmes is here with this story. Good morning, TJ.
Good morning. And Dwayne Wade's oldest son is a big-time high school basketball player. We've seen video of him over the years on the sideline rooting for his kid. Well, what you don't know and some don't realize is that he has also very publicly been rooting for and cheerleading for another of his kids. His second oldest, who we've known as Zion over the years, is now Zaya. And D-Wade is being given credit for giving a master class in how to support your LGBTQ+ child.
Every channel and every network is celebrating Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade as some kind of role models for great parenting.
The goal of the mainstream media and their campaign of child corruption is ultimately to infect the masses with a spiritual virus, a virus called sin, which leaves you ineligible for God's protection and destined for physical plagues and destruction.
This witchcraft is aimed at everyone, especially the Israelites.
Former NBA superstar Dwayne Wade now sharing the moment his 12-year-old came out to him as transgender.
I don't know if everyone knows, originally named Zion born as a boy. Originally named Zion born as a boy. Came home and said, hey, so I want to talk to you guys. Came home and said, hey, so I want to talk to you guys. So I want to talk to you guys. You know, I think going forward, I'm ready to live my truth. And I want to be referenced as she and her. I would love for you guys to call me Zaya. Call me Zaya.
Zaya has received strong support from Wade and his wife, Gabrielle Union.
A lot of you guys see me as a superhero.
NBA superstar Dwayne Wade is opening up like never before in the new ESPN documentary, D-Wade, Life Unexpected. The 38-year-old revealing details about not only his professional life, but his family as well, raising his 5 children, including 12-year-old daughter Zaya, who recently came out as transgender.
Launch to LeBron, they've done it again!
So if my child comes home and say, hey, Dad, I feel that I am a she. My job is to help you become who you are.
She was the one who sat down with us as a family and said, hey, I don't think I'm gay. And she went down the list and said, you know, this is how I identify myself. This is my gender identity, right? I identify myself as a young lady. I think I'm a straight trans because I like boys. So it was a process for us to sit down with our daughter and find out who she is and what she likes.
Today, more and more men are enrolling in women's studies classes. More men are becoming stay-at-home dads, sending their wives off to work in the morning. More men are becoming, well, women, full stop, as evidenced in the past 5 years alone, where in the United States, the transgender population has exactly doubled.
There's a full spectrum attack on masculinity orchestrated by the globalists. But it's not just a psychological attack. In terms of programming in the media, there's a spiritual component as well. This takes the form of public rituals and the externalization of the hierarchy. On top of all that, there's also a chemical and biological aspect to this Luciferian agenda.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon's confirmed it once considered building a chemical weapon that could turn enemy soldiers into homosexuals and make them more interested in sex than fighting. Newly declassified documents show the Ohio Air Force Lab asked for $7.5 million in 1994 to develop a so-called gay bomb.
Something ominous is happening to men in America. Everyone who pays attention knows that.
Sounds like a B movie. Millions of males vanish. Fact is, there aren't as many nowadays. Not human males, not frogs, not fish.
Chemicals are moving us into a period of the most rapid evolution that this species has ever experienced.
From toys to shampoo, we're awash in strange new compounds, and we're only just learning that males are being hit hardest. I'm Anne-Marie McDonald. This Doc Zone asks, where have all the boys gone?
I remain convinced that yes, the future is female.
For any of you Saved by the Bell fans out there, a reboot is on the way with a very 2020 twist. And E! News has confirmed that the new version of the 90s show will star former Disney actor Josie Tota, who appeared in Jessie as well as NBC's Champions, Marvel's Spider-Man Homecoming, and in 2018 came out as transgender. Now, Josie will star alongside Mario Lopez and Elizabeth Berkley as they reprise their roles as AC Slater and Jesse Spano. That iconic duo, I mean, right? It's that couple. All right, Josie's character's name is Lexi, who is described as a beautiful, sharp-tongued cheerleader and the most popular girl at Bayside High, who is both admired and feared by her fellow students.
I love that.
Yeah, now this is, I'm such a big fan of Saved by the Bell. I don't know, I think that maybe, this is just my personal opinion, I think that there's a little bit more of importance if she plays a girl, right? Just a girl,
right?
Right?
She's a girl.
Not a
transgender. She's a girl.
Yeah. Right? Just a girl.
I agree.
Because I mean, that's who she is. Right?
No,
exactly.
absolutely.
So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of power in that. And look, this is going to go on Peacock, which is the new digital platform that obviously everyone's going to have to be checking out. And this is what they're using really to push it and to sell it.
A so-called gay bomb.
Apologizing after receiving backlash for comments she made on her show yesterday when she argued that gay men should not wear clothes traditionally for women. Here's the clip from her Hot Topic segment of The Wendy Williams.
Wendy has since posted a video to her Instagram apologizing to the LGBTQ plus community for her comments.
Start by saying I apologize. I did not mean to offend my LGBTQ plus community. I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. So I deeply apologize, and I deeply appreciate the support that I get from the community.
Our mothers did not have to shoo men away from wearing their dresses, high heels, and purses. So why do we have to? There is a new but old social class of elites being recreated to rule society. A new priest class. The usually brash, unapologetic Wendy Williams is now groveling at the feet of her new hermaphroditic androgynous overlords. Even though what she said was true, she made the mistake of making a clear distinction between men and women, and for this she had to be punished.
For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night.
Distractions all around me, disappear like a thief in the night.
This is all part of what the Masonic luminaries and the occult brotherhoods refer to as the grand design and the great work. This segment of the One World Agenda is guided by the glowing torch and watchful eye of the androgynous goddess Columbia, Lady Liberty, or as the Canaanites call her, Ishtar.
Astarte was a goddess of fertility and famous across the ancient world. They wrote of fanatical and bloody religious practices.
During the height of one orgiastic rite, Phoenician men sometimes castrated themselves in an attempt to emulate their goddess Astarte.
Perched high on a mountain, Erice in Sicily was once the site of a shrine to Astarte. According to the Romans, behind these walls, the Phoenicians practiced a ritual of sacred prostitution.
Ancient Rome was filled with thousands of statues for their gods, hundreds of free bathhouses and shrine prostitution temples. But a goddess named Sybil was the most popular of the deities. The Romans called her Mater Diem, which meant Mother of the Gods and Protectress of Rome. Inside Sybil's temples were galley priests. Galley priests were castrated men who offered themselves sexually to male worshippers.
In the modern world, the goddess Ishtar, or Columbia, is the patron goddess to the most powerful country on earth, which just so happens to have the highest population of transgenders on earth. Through this country, the masses are not only spiritually influenced by the goddess of transgenderism, but are psychologically influenced through her media. And now, the world is being chemically and biologically altered to be even more susceptible to her influence.
There are many warning signs. A growing body of evidence shows that something is wrong with the sexual health of human males. Sperm counts worldwide have been cut in half in the last 50 years. Sperm abnormalities and rates of male infertility have radically increased. Rates of testicular cancer have doubled in the last 20 years. The question is, why? Scientists now believe that certain man-made chemicals are to blame. They interfere with the male hormonal system and are playing havoc with the basic building blocks of male sexual development. The problem is, these chemicals are everywhere.
A so-called gay bomb.
Well, have you heard the theory that we're all being bombarded with a cocktail of chemicals from on high? The allegation is that those white vapor trails in the sky left by aircraft are evidence of a government weather modification cover-up, and in the process we're all being slowly poisoned. So is this a baseless conspiracy theory or something sinister that we should be taking seriously? Joining us live from California is one of the most well-known advocates of what is loosely called the Chemtrails theory, Dane Wigington, and to challenge him from Australian skeptics, Ken McLeod, a retired air traffic controller. What proof do you have that chemtrails are happening and that they are for climate engineering?
In regard to the proof we have, in addition to having government documents, Senate documents, presidential documents, we have U.S. Air Force former generals, 2 former generals communicating with us. We have NASA satellite imagery like that, which you're showing right now, that clearly no one needs to know anything about meteorology to see that there's very unnatural patterns in those cloud formations, in fact, patterns that nature cannot make. In addition to our testing of precipitation from around the globe, which has yielded without exception the climate engineering components in the precipitation, aluminum, barium, strontium, polymer fibers. We have just at great expense and great effort completed atmospheric testing using a flying laboratory that NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also uses, and we have just confirmed the same climate engineering elements that were emitted from aircraft in a layer that we flew through. We have just confirmed this, first type of its test ever. This is a court admissible type of evidence. I could go on, but the bottom line, in addition to all this, we have film footage of these aircraft at altitude turning on and off. You can't turn condensation on and off with the nozzles visible. As you see in that particular image you're showing now, you can see the nozzles on the wings. We have up-close photographs as well. If people don't believe what they see with their own eyes, I think there's not much we can show them.
Well, Dan, just sort of pulling back from that really sort of specific detail, why a good test of any sort of theory goes back to Cicero. Who benefits? Why would the government be using aeroplanes to poison its own population or change the climate? It seems like a very convoluted and inefficient way, for one thing, of doing anything. And why would they want to do it anyway and then cover it up?
And an inefficient way, for one thing, of doing anything. And why would they want to do it anyway and then cover it up?
The record number of fires burning across Brazil's Amazon rainforest has prompted renewed global outcry over climate change. And big spending. $5 million from Leonardo DiCaprio, £10 million from the UK. Meanwhile, Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial.
Problem, reaction, solution.
How long will it be that countries keep experiencing these climate impacts before someone gets desperate and says, hey, we need to cool the planet with solar geoengineering?
It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface. It would mimic a giant volcanic eruption, which we know cools the Earth. Back in 1991, Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines. It also spewed a cloud of 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide particles into the stratosphere. That chemical cloud was hundreds of miles across and reflected about 2% of sunlight back to space. And in 1992, the Earth was cooler than in 1991.
That is part of the mechanism, but you do this in a controlled way.
Modelling studies have found that it could reduce the intensity of heat waves, for instance. Apparently it could reduce the rate of sea level rise.
You start increasing the amount of diffuse light and you have less direct light, which is the same thing as saying it looks hazy and white.
A 2016 opinion poll conducted by the Harvard group doing solar geoengineering research found that 67% of subjects support its use. One reason this technology is appealing, it's cheap. One study estimates it would cost an average of $2.25 billion globally every year for the first 15 years of deployment. Compare that to the $500 billion the U.S. government estimates it will cost just the U.S. by 2100 if no action is taken against climate change. Or the $1.6 to $3.8 trillion projected global spending by 2050 on low-carbon energy production. You can also compare it to direct air carbon capturing, another climate change solution backed by Bill Gates and by big oil.
It doesn't require a lot of materials. It doesn't require a big innovation. It basically affects the whole planet with one project.
Bill Gates is among a dozen individual donors and 14 foundations backing the first stratospheric solar geoengineering experiment out of Harvard. It's called Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, or SCOPEX. A high-altitude balloon will lift instruments about 20 kilometers into the stratosphere, where it will release less than 2 kilograms of different naturally occurring chemicals, like calcium carbonate and sulfates.
60 years ago, synthetic chemicals were a futuristic novelty. Since that time, the chemical industry has developed more than 90,000 man-made compounds, and the vast majority of them have never been tested for their effects on human beings. These chemicals are found in virtually every consumer product. Chemicals like bisphenol A make plastics hard and unbreakable. Other chemicals called phthalates make plastics soft and pliable. Chemicals make cosmetics smell fresh and fragrant. They make our fabrics stain-resistant and our computers flame-resistant. But have we unleashed a monster? Some common chemicals are causing profound and permanent damage to growing bodies. And for reasons we are just beginning to understand, some synthetic chemicals are far more damaging to boys. Young adult men are also at risk. Sperm counts in college-age men have fallen dramatically in recent decades. A typical young man produces less than half of the sperm his father did, and up to 85% of it is abnormal.
Some CMS parents say they did not know that students got a survey that asked their gender identity and sexual orientation.
As a whole, testosterone levels have declined by about 50% since the 1950s.
The survey that's been given to middle and high school students, asking them how they describe their sexual identity and if they identify as transgender.
In other words, your grandfather probably had roughly twice the testosterone you have. So if your grandfather's testosterone was, say, 750 nanograms per deciliter and yours is roughly 400, what's your grandson's going to be?
The next question comes from Zachary, age 9.
Oh, wow.
And this is a really touching question. He says, "Thank you for being so brave. Would you help me tell the world I'm gay too? I want to be brave like you."
Wow.
And bad news. There's one ingredient baked into most of our foods that might be causing the uptick in girly men. Soy. The truth is, 93% of the soy that we consume is bad for us. It decreases testosterone levels and increases estrogen levels, wherein the negative health effects have consequences for both men and women. As a man, if you're consuming extra estrogen, it's going to give you more female characteristics. And if you're a woman, well, it's going to increase your chances of things like breast cancer, cervical cancer, and other types of hormone imbalance related ailments.
McDonald's is beefing up its menu in North America by adding a vegan option. The Golden Arches will test what it calls its PLT sandwich. That stands for plant, lettuce, tomato, providing the world's largest restaurant operator with its vegan patties Beyond Meat.
There are no chickens here at the Beyond Meat plant in Columbia, Missouri. No cattle either. Just sacks and sacks of things like carrot fiber, pea protein, and soy meal, which CEO Ethan Brown and his company are transforming into what he calls chicken strips and beef crumbles.
To make a vegan-friendly burger that contains the molecule, Impossible Foods uses genetically modified soy.
Parents are switching their infants over to soy baby formula in droves. 25% of babies in America are now fed soy infant formula. A baby exclusively fed soy formula receives the estrogenic equivalent of at least 5 birth control pills per day.
Dualism is a prominent component in most occult traditions, stemming back to Nimrod and his quest to overcome the barriers of the physical plane, which compelled him to construct a one-world tower in an effort to unite all creation in opposition to its creator.
But did Esau kill Nimrod? And has his seed line joined with the sons of the fallen in an effort to complete Nimrod's vision of a one-world tower in a global superstate? Full spectrum dominance and consolidation of power, the singularity, combining male and female, organic and inorganic, man and beast.
If Satan can destroy the image of God in man, that is a direct assault on God himself.
This is the so-called great work, a fully united creation in the image of Satan, able to wage war and overthrow the armies of heaven.
In most Masonic lodges, you will find the black and white checkerboard floor and the 2 pillars. Both of these motifs symbolize duality and the mission of the great work, which is to take as above so below and fuse them into the 3rd pillar, replacing the first 2 with an all-encompassing singularity, as above so below, coexisting in what the Illuminists believe will be infinite perfection.
We dare not allow ourselves to doubt God's
From father to son.
not only towards soul.
The original Twin Towers are representations of two pillars, light and dark, positive and negative, male and female. The Twin Towers were ritualistically demolished and sacrificed in order to give birth to the third pillar, which of course is an amalgamation of the first two, encompassing male and female, positive and negative, the erect pyramid and the inverted pyramid.
An elongated square antiprism, which coincidentally coincides with the pattern we see in the pyramids of Giza, which also are in alignment with Orion's belt.
The Masonic architects of New York's new One World Trade Center designed the building in such a way that when a viewer is approaching the front of the building, if they look up from that perspective, the facade of the building forms a perfect pyramid.
One world government.
Throughout history, pyramids have been markers denoting the dominion of unclean spirits, which usually coincides with bondage or enslavement of God's chosen people, the Israelites. The new One World Trade Center is a symbolic byproduct of 9/11 and the War on Terror, which was a pretext for the invasion and overthrow of Middle Eastern governments and the consolidation of power. Just as climate change is really about global government and the unification of power, so why would this coronavirus pandemic be about anything less than the merging of states in a global takeover? They've been waiting for a worldwide health crisis so they can implement mandatory vaccinations, international pharmacological tyranny, global medical martial law.
They're creating a one world government. And they're creating a serfdom in that one world government. And they're taking your political power away from you in that one world government so they can rule over you in that one world government.
One day, Jesus is coming. You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when he makes his personal appearance. My God, what if his appearance occurs